In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. and IT&E.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of In Full Zoom. I'm Nestor Licanto, and pleased to welcome our guest for this week. She is Mia Charity of the Close-Up Foundation. Half a day, Mia.
Half a day. How are you, Nestor?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. I'm adjusting to the time difference from DC, but otherwise doing fantastic.
Fantastic. Okay, you're here for the Youth Summit, but you're also with the Close-Up Foundation. So before we get to the Youth Summit, tell us about what the Close-Up Foundation is and what your job there is.
Absolutely. So the Close-Up Foundation, we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan civic education organization. So what that means is that we work with students in middle school and high school to learn more about government, public policy, help them find their voice in the issues that they're passionate about, and use that and develop the skills to become active and engaged citizens. And so we do that with some of our Washington, D.C. based programs, and we do some local programs like we're here doing this week in Guam. So in addition to the work that we do with students, we also do professional development with teachers to help them talk about current issues in the classroom, and navigate some of those conversations as they come up in the news about things going on in public policy locally and nationally.
All right, sounds good. So you mentioned the Youth Summit. Tell us specifically what that's all about.
The Youth Summit is our opportunity to work with students here in Guam to look at local issues, so the issues that are dealt with at the legislature level. And so the students are in 5 different committee areas looking at education, cultural affairs, environment, economy, law enforcement, and children and health family services. And so they break up into these little groups, and then they start looking at the issues in those subgroups and do some research to really find the issues that they're most interested in, that most connect to them. And then they start working together to develop policy solutions to present to the legislators themselves. So tomorrow we'll have experts come in from all of those areas, and the students will be able to ask questions as they continue to do their research and start putting together their policy proposals. And then they'll have another day to work on those issues and refine the proposals. And then on the last day of the summit, they will present the issues to the legislatures.
Yeah, and so what is the idea behind this for the students themselves, in addition to getting to know, current events, that sort of thing?
We really want students to develop the skills and attitudes to be, for lifelong citizens, right? Like everyday citizens can have impacts on their communities. And so, a lot of times when young people and many people just in general think about government, it seems overwhelming. And so we sort of break down that process for students and show them the pathways where they can be impactful, put them in front of stakeholders so that they see that their ideas are being listened to, and that they're important in the conversation. And so really it's sort of like experiential opportunity for them to practice those skills. As we look towards, we're coming up on midterm elections, people are motivated to participate in those elections when they see themselves in the policies and how that impacts their lives and their families and their communities. And so we help students make those connections to why it's important to make sure that their voices are heard.
Tell us more about your role in facilitating the discussion. What are the sort of things you look for, and what are some of the advice that you would be giving?
So I'm here with 2 other staff members, Danny Hastings and Wendy Lowe, and they are the ones that are the instructional staff working with students this week. And so they help facilitate those conversations and, help the students unpack what the research looks like. My role at the foundation is really working with the Department of Interior, who supports this program. And so we receive funding from the Office of Insular Affairs, that's within the Department of Interior, to be able to provide civic education opportunities to students in Guam and the rest of the territories. And so we work all through the year. We plan the summit here, that's here in the fall, and we're happy to be back. Last time we were in Guam was 2019. So we had a little pandemic hiatus, but we're back. And then this past spring was our first group since the pandemic coming to Washington, D.C. again. And so this spring, we'll have another group of students come to Washington, and that's where they'll look at, federal issues. So here they're looking at local issues on the summit, and then in Washington, D.C., they'll look at more federal issues.
I'm sure the schools and the students are glad to have you guys back.
Yes, they are. And, it's great being back here in Guam because we've had such a long history of supporting the schools here. Our partnership with Department of Interior has existed for more than nearly 40 years. And we've been doing the local summit here for more than 10 years. And so whenever we're close up and someone sees a little close up business card or pamphlet or something that's not even on the program, we oftentimes get my sister did the program, or I came on that in high school. And so we're very fortunate that we've been able to serve a lot of students and teachers here in Guam. And so we have good ambassadors all over the place.
In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. and IT&E. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. and IT&E.
Yeah, I'm wondering what has been the reaction of the students over the years about their experience with the Youth Summit?
It's always, we always get a great group of students that are very thoughtful and really deliberate about the work that they're taking on either at the summit or in Washington, D.C. And so, I think they're eye-opening in very different ways. I think it's really interesting on the summit, those are the people that they see the most in terms of the legislators that are coming on to hear them on Friday. Those are the people that they see on the news all the time. And so those people feel like they're here. And I think it's really empowering for them to get an audience in front of those people. And then, traveling to Washington, D.C., just the travel piece alone is an eye-opening experience. Just having gotten to Guam, 23 hours of travel, that is in 14-hour time difference for DC. So travel and just getting an eye-opening experience of a change of scenery. The part that's in Washington that makes it unique is that the students from Guam are able to engage with students from all across the country. And so in a given week of the close-up program that they participate in Washington, D.C., they could be there with students from Miami, Bozeman, Montana, all across the country. And so it's really a great opportunity for them to share their experience, right? Living in territories with students who have, different kinds of, rural backgrounds, urban backgrounds, and you bring all of that into the conversations that they're having about public policy. If you have a conversation about what the environment looks like, there are certainly different kinds of environmental issues that are going to be faced here in Guam, different than the ones that they might see in New Orleans, right? But at the same time, you understand that, once you hear someone's story, that helps you relate and understand why they might make certain choices or have certain preferences that they apply to public policy decisions and who they support and champion as they look at those issues a little bit closer.
Sure. Give us an idea of some of the issues currently, or maybe in past summits that the students tackled.
I would say, there's always a big interest in like drug prevention, type of activities for students. I heard some conversations today about students wanting better facilities and resources for their schools. And so it's all over the place in terms of the kinds of things that students look at. But also one of the issues that tends to be at the forefront are environmental and climate issues. And so we always get students who are really interested in taking a look at those issues.
Yeah. What is it that you hope the students get out of this experience?
Well, I think we want the students to be able to voice and articulate their own opinions based in fact and research that they conduct on with them, as part of the program. And then also, we have students who are all from Guam this week that we're working with, but just because you're from the same community doesn't mean that you automatically agree on all the things in your community. And so part of that that we want students to get out of this is, the practice of civil discourse, and that we don't see a lot right now in our political landscape, but really listening to people who have difference of opinions than you and being able to have a respectful conversation is really important. And then also being able to work with people who share your opinions and don't share your opinions. How do you work together to compromise and come together to formalize solutions that moves the dial a bit? And so I think that idea of being able to feel strong in what you believe in and be respectful at the same time leads to the kind of critical thinking and collaboration that we need to see more of in government.
In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises Inc. and IT&E. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises Inc. and IT&E.
Yeah, you talk about the current political discourse in Washington, where you just came from, and it's no secret. I mean, this is a nation that's currently very divided on political issues. And so, is it also the hope that these summits will help? From the mouths of babes, they say, comes the truth, right? And so, is it one of the things that it's hoped that this summit will, as you say, kind of maybe help push that sort of current, very nasty political discourse, for lack of another word, aside?
Absolutely. I think once you see that you can have conversations with people who don't, see everything the way that you do, I think it makes it easier to look at other issues, and forces you to learn more about the things you don't know about. And even for the things that you do think you know about, there are pieces of those issues that maybe you don't consider. And so I think, creating empathy and understanding by having those conversations are really important. And then also having the confidence and knowledge to be able to talk to different stakeholders in the community, elected officials, to express what you want them to do on your behalf and holding them accountable for doing that is also what we want students to take away from the program.
Right, absolutely. Who are some of the speakers that will be there? I guess tomorrow and the next day.
Yes. So we have about 8 speakers tomorrow. One of them is the deputy superintendent of schools. We have folks from public safety. I don't have that list in front of me right now, but we have about 8 speakers that are going to be participating in our panel tomorrow, and then about 8 legislators on Friday who will be here to hear those presentations from the students.
All right, so you have political figures and subject matter experts from different government entities, and they'll have the students will have an opportunity, of course, to ask them questions about what they do and why they do it.
Absolutely. After they have the conversation with the experts, they'll go back into their committees, they'll refine some of the work that they're doing. And then before they even get to the presentation in front of the legislators on Friday, they'll go through a process with each other where they, pass certain bills out of their committee to get final presentation and the floor on Friday.
Yeah, we do have I'm sure you're aware, we do have an active Guam Youth Congress here, and it's made up of student representatives also who go through those kinds of things on I think a monthly basis when they meet and do come up with legislation. And in fact, some of their legislation actually makes it to the Guam legislature. So I mean, is that part of this summit is kind of a preparation for that?
Absolutely. It really is a practical practice of going through the motion of identifying the idea of the thing that you want to change and putting it into practice. And so we have had students, the ideas that they've come up with during the summit be introduced at in the legislature. And so, we use that as an example to show them like this doesn't have to be just a school type of assignment. This is real, and your ideas are valuable and important, and people are listening to you. And I think we've always had great participation from members of the legislature, and it was almost funny that we have so many coming on Friday. We know that there's a special session going on. And so we were very excited to have so many confirmations on Friday.
Well, these are potential voters, so I'm not surprised.
That's right. That's right. We are definitely grooming the next generation of voters. Most of the students in the summit are not 18 and voting this year, but for the next presidential cycle, next election cycle, you'll have folks ready to enter into the electorate, and they'll be ready and informed and prepared.
In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises Inc. and IT&E. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises Inc. and IT&E.
Speaking of future voters, one of the things that the statistics have shown at the last election, the primary election, was that there's been a relatively low turnout of 18 to 25-year-old voters. And that's a little worrisome, I think, to have that such a small amount of voters. And I guess this sort of event, the Youth Summit, can help maybe move the needle in that respect.
Absolutely. I think we talked about this a little bit before, but you understanding how public policy impacts your life is really important in motivating young people to get out to vote. Once you start that process of understanding and practicing and making sure that you cast your ballot, the earlier and the younger you start to do that, the more likely it is that you're going to exhibit those behaviors for the rest of your life. And so we know if we get students right now, as they are developing those habits, that they will be engaged in the process and set an example for their peers too, to be involved. It isn't always easy for young people to vote. When you're going off to college and all of those things, there are certain barriers that get in your way, but it's not that hard. And so we show them that the entire process seems like it's cumbersome sometimes, but really once you just, face it head on. It's a really easy process and their voice matters. And when they show up, it's very meaningful.
One of the things that we do like what we call a man on the street interviews. And we had one of our reporters go out and speak with the youth, right? And one of the things that was common amongst their responses was that the politicians are not talking to them. Their issues, their concerns are not being discussed by the politicians. So that's one of the reasons perhaps for their apathy and this low turnout that I spoke of. These kinds of summits can also be a learning experience for the adults of politicians, right? To be able to try and understand what matters to the youth and so that they can address those, correct?
Absolutely. I always find it interesting when students meet with members of the legislature or members of Congress when they're in Washington, D.C., that, it's not just the students who are interested in the conversation. Oftentimes it's the elected official too, who's learning a lot from those conversations. And so it really is a give and take. And just, sometimes you just need the opportunity to have, face-to-face time with, your elected official. And once that happens, you go, okay, well, that was easy. I know how to engage this person. I know how to push this kind of stakeholder. I know how to get people on my side for issues that I really care about. And once you show that you're going to show up, that's when politicians pay attention.
Absolutely. And so this local summit will wrap up this weekend. And then when will they be going to DC?
They will be going to DC in the spring. Normally, we have them in town in Washington, DC in April or May. In addition to the summit in Guam, next week we'll be in Saipan. And so we're doing 4 local summits, the one in Guam, one in Saipan, and then we're doing 2 in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And so we do these local summits, and then everybody gets to come together in the spring together in Washington, D.C.
Sounds fantastic. I wish I had that opportunity when I was a youth, but that was a very long time ago, Mia. So. All right. Mia Charity is with the Close Up Foundation here for the Guam Youth Summit. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Nestor.
I'm Nestor Licanto. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you again next week on In Full Zoom.
In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. and IT&E.